There was a guy that I don't remember what he does. We connected and he was like, "Hey, how is it going?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm busy." And he looked at me and he was like, "One day I hope you'll be successful." And I wanted to like lean through the computer. I think like, yeah, that's true, right? Like busy is I have too many things that I don't want to do on my plate that need to be done at this time. So there is a difference between busy and success. I think the biggest problem most people make is they don't have a definition of success.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, babies in their diapers, welcome to the Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy.
That's me, Tiberius.
And welcome to the Tiberius Show today. And I'm your host, Tiberius Boy. And as always, looking at various jobs and how they affect the world around us. Today, we're going to talk about lawyers. But wait, don't click away. I know they're not interesting, but this is not your typical lawyer. This lawyer wears flip-flops, works less than most people, and helps other lawyers not lose their minds. So, do we really know what it takes to be a lawyer and still have a life? Well, I think I have an idea, but you know what? Let's just talk to this guy and find out. Let me introduce our next guest. The one, the only, the amazing Jordan Ostroff!
Dude, I've been on a lot of podcasts. That is the best intro I've ever gotten. So thank you.
Okay, so you're a lawyer and the owner of Carp DM Consulting. Can you explain to our listeners exactly what is a lawyer?
Sure. A lawyer is somebody that argues with other people over specific words. Sometimes it's laws, sometimes it's contracts, but ultimately it is some sort of an agreement that did not turn out the way that one party thought it was. And now we need to get an ultimate resolution to that.
So when did you first know that you wanted to become a lawyer?
Listen, I have home videos of me like younger than you arguing with my parents about being a lawyer when I had no idea what it meant. So it's been a long, long time that I have known I wanted to do this.
So why law? What pulled you into that world?
So, I don't know specifically what the reason was, but once I realized that you were basically arguing rules, laws, evidence with other people, I was like, oh, this is what I love, right? Like convincing somebody that I am right and they are wrong. Since then, I've come away from the so much they're wrong part. I don't need that as much as I did when I was younger, but it clicked and I have never looked back.
So what kind of student were you? Serious, laid back, or somewhere in between?
So there's a story in Source Code, Bill Gates's memoir, where he talks about his one teacher would give him two grades, like an A through F for how good they did, and then a 1 through 3 for how much effort they put in. And the professor wanted like A1s. Bill Gates is like, but doesn't it make more sense to get an A3, like an A with the least amount of effort? That was me as a student to a T. It was the least that I could do to still get a good grade was exactly what I did.
Alright, well, was there a moment when law started to feel like a real career path for you?
Ooh. So my first lawyer job, I was a state attorney. And so on day one, they're like, hey, here are your files. A bunch of these are going to trial in, 12 minutes and have fun. So it felt real from day one because it was like, this is, somebody going, and thankfully it was, minor cases. So somebody at worst could go to jail for like 6 months or a year, not for prison. And then obviously if at the more serious cases went to more knowledgeable lawyers. But for me, it was pretty real from day one.
Wow. So did you think being a lawyer would look like the way it actually does?
Ooh, that's a good question. So here's the thing. I didn't know what being a lawyer would look like. So I thought it was going to be in court arguing and, going through these cases. And that's what being a state attorney is. So it was like exactly, what you see on Law and Order is shortened, but like the concept of them spending that much time in the courtroom arguing cases and stuff, like that's what state attorneys do. When I opened up my own firm after that, that's when I realized that now I couldn't spend the same amount of time in court. Now it was all about networking and generating business and meeting people and doing all that stuff. That's where it was not what I thought.
So what surprised you the most once you became a lawyer?
Initially, not much. Like, I thought it was going to be in court all the time. And as a state attorney, that's what you do. But once I left the office and opened up my own firm, that's when I realized it really is meeting people, networking, generating cases, running a business. And I had to completely learn all those things. Like, we don't learn those in law school. So that was what was shocking to me.
So Jordan, you talk a lot about like relationships, transparency, and efficiency. Why are those so important to you?
Because as lawyers, we don't have a trademark or a patent on what we do. Like, if I'm arguing a case, everyone can argue the same case. If I file a motion, everyone can argue the same motion. So we have our word, and our word is going to be so much better when we are genuine and authentic and care about people long term, and not put on some, fake facade and pretend to be somebody that we're not. That's where you end up having everybody hate you. And ultimately, like, in the legal field, especially in Central Florida, it's large enough and small enough, right? Like, it's baby bear. It's the exact right size where you will see people consistently in a way that makes the people that do a great job and care for each other stand out more.
So at what point did you realize the legal profession was burning people out?
Oh man, there were a lot of defense attorneys that passed away while I was a state attorney through overdoses, through suicide, through heart attack or stroke. And so as soon as I transitioned to being a defense attorney, I got to realize why. Like, just the grind of constantly finding cases and having everybody come to you in their biggest time of need and taking on their problems, it can really grind you into dust if you don't have the systems in place to, keep your mental health.
So was there a moment where you thought, I don't want my life to look like this?
Unfortunately, there's not one moment, because I'm not going to give you names, but I can tell you more than half a dozen people in the first 6 years I was an attorney that this happened to. And so it was like these consistent reminders. And if it wasn't that, like, there was somebody who I used to meet with every week, and we'd cover cases for each other. Showed up to their office one day. Their office was closed. They had apparently abandoned the practice of law and were allegedly in the panhandle doing roofing and stuff. Like, you hear too many of these stories for it to necessarily be one thing. It's that it's not just one random story. It's like endemic to the profession if you constantly wear overwork as a badge of honor and don't have a real business.
All right. So you're known for working about 24 hours a week. How did people react when you started doing that?
I was terrified how people would react. What I've come to find out is the people that, but let me back up for a second. I always tell people, if your business needs you there all the time, you don't have a business, you have a job. You might have a great job, you might have a really high paying job, but it's not a business. And so the more that I talk about the time that I work and that it's not 70 hours anymore, the people I know that have great businesses understand it and send us more stuff. The people I know that have jobs don't understand how anybody could do it. So I've tried to spend a bunch of time sharing the secrets, but they're not really secrets, right? Like, just the foundations of delegation and systems and creating an actual business so that everybody can have some amount of flexibility and freedom to have a life.
So was it scary to go against what everyone else was doing?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Do you think adults sometimes confuse with being busy with being successful?
There was a guy that I don't remember what he does. We connected and he was like, "Hey, how is it going?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm busy." And he looked at me and he was like, "One day I hope you'll be successful." And I wanted to like lean through the computer and just slap him. But the older I get, the more I think like, yeah, that's true, right? Like, busy is, I have too many things that I don't want to do on my plate that need to be done at this time. So there is a difference between busy and success. I think the biggest problem most people make is they don't have a definition of success. More is not always better. It's more of the right cases. It's more of the right amount of money. It's more of the right things that you're doing with your time, instead of just this amorphous concept of more that will get you into trouble.
So what was the hardest part about changing the way you worked?
Ooh, the hardest part about changing the way I worked would probably have been my own internal doing it, and then like the first batch of people that very nicely, in a way that they thought they were doing me a favor, telling me that I was wrong in what I was doing. And because they were doing it from a place of genuine niceness, that's what bothered me more, right? Like it wasn't some troll on the internet. It was a mentor of mine who's like, listen, I don't think that's going to work for you. Like, I hope it does, but understand you're alienating it and you might hurt your firm. Like that was the biggest issue for me, is going down the path enough to see the benefits of it versus the genuine concern of people like warning me about what they thought would be the problems.
So what makes your approach to law different from most lawyers?
So I don't think I have a different approach to law. It's the business of law. There's so many of these solo and small firms where the owner is doing a full-time lawyer job and a full-time consultation job and a full-time marketing job and making business decisions and going to conferences and reading, all these things. And then they're upset with themselves that they're not doing a good enough job, but really they're doing 6 full-time jobs, trying to cram it into even 60 hours. So for me, I think the biggest thing was realizing, like, what am I great at and what am I terrible at? And if I'm terrible at it, somebody else can do it better than I can. I can focus on what I do that I can be great at, which to me, I think is systems and simplifying. So from a more business owner standpoint, and that's it. Like so everybody needs to find what they truly need to be doing. Like you need to be doing as many of these shows as possible. You do a great job. You've got this set up. Lawyers need to find the same thing. Is it being in court? Is it being networking? Is it doing the consults? Focus more.
All right. If a teenager said, I want to be successful, what would you tell them that success actually means?
I wouldn't tell them anything. I would ask them that question. What is success to you? What does that really look like? Because I think especially younger, a lot of people will say success looks like being, a millionaire or making a certain amount of money. But if you never get to see your family and you can't hang out with your friends and you're miserable and you're 50 pounds overweight and sorry, man. Oh, sorry. I thought you wanted me to stop when you lost the thing. Oh, my bad. All right. So, and so if you're drastically overweight and you're not healthy, like those are not success. You're going to burn yourself out. You're going to grind yourself down.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, give us a second.
Yeah. He had to let you know to end your thought and then go. So we'll have to re-ask the question again because you stopped in the middle. It's okay.
Okay, so you're getting my audio when yours cuts out?
Yes. When we shut down, we still get your audio because we have
okay.
a small... I'm sorry. Let me turn on my mic. When we lose audios, we're only losing Tiberius's audio. We don't lose yours. We still record yours, and then we end and then do the other. If you stop in between, we got to re-ask the question.
Got it. Sorry.
That's
all
okay.
Right, next time I'll power through.
Yeah, he just nodded to let you know, hey, you can't hear us. Finish your thought, and then we just change camera angles. It's okay. We'll just knock it out. He'll ask that question again.
Okay.
Okay. Tiberius?
Yep.
Okay, it's right there. And then let's set the camera angle to this one. We haven't used that one, right?
Nope. Haven't used that one.
Do you get this one? Since you're going to be facing forward, I need you to memorize the question.
Yeah.
You got it? Okay. And turning off my mic. In 3, 2.
If a teenager said, I want to be successful, what would you tell them what success actually means?
I wouldn't tell them anything. I'd ask them that same question. What does success look like for you? Because I think a lot of times, especially younger people, are going to say it's making $100,000 a year, having $1 million, something, being a professional athlete. But if you're doing these things and you don't have any time to spend with your friends and family, and you're not being physically healthy, and you're not, putting money away to be able to retire, like that's not success. So really defining what success looks like, because I think for a lot of us, success is finding meaningful work that makes us happy, that is enough for us to afford to live. And that's not going to be somebody's definition until they're pushed into that full picture of success.
Well, here seems like a good time to take a quick commercial break. Let's hear a word from our sponsors.
So you want to make an ad for your company, right?
Yeah, Tiberius, you want to help me?
Okay, so what's the name of the company?
PPWND.
PP what?
Professional Pressure Washing and Detailing.
So you like clean driveways?
Yeah, like that. We pressure wash commercial buildings and semi-truck and trailers.
So how would someone get a hold of you?
They can visit my site at ppwnd.com or call me at 407-900-7793.
So I just tell them to call you at 407-900-7793 or visit ppwnd.com?
Yeah, Tiberius, you got it.
Cut. That's a wrap. Just use that.
Oak Ridge Gun Range is a family-oriented shooting range that has been in business for over 30 years. They specialize in basic firearm training and offer numerous services such as consignments, gun trades, gunsmithing, and concealed weapon classes. I even got my training for gun safety at Oak Ridge Gun Range. Great customer service, and firearm safety is what they do best. So find out more at oakridgegunrange.com.
And we're back here talking with Jordan Ostroff, lawyer, business owner, and life balance expert. Wait, life balance expert? Ooh, I like that title. Why do you believe work should fit into life, not replace it?
So I think about my death quite often, probably, hopefully in a good way, right? Like my tombstone is not going to say lawyer, right? It's going to have husband, father, friend, whatever. And I think that's the same for most people. Like we get wrapped up in this job that we do some time frame, but that's not what we want to be remembered for at the end of the day. And so the more that you can make your work fit into your life, the more you enjoy it, the more you stay in the game, the more you get to be happy with everything that's going on, as opposed to this concept of us being like, hey, I'm going to sacrifice all of the nice part of the next 30 years of my life to this job that I hate. Like that to me just sounds miserable.
Well, you coach other law firm owners now. Why did you decide to help other lawyers instead of just focusing on your own firm?
Like I told you before, man, the half a dozen or more colleagues I have that are no longer here, I'm not vain enough to think I'm the difference between that, but I am knowledgeable enough to think that me giving them enough advice, enough of the foundation is the difference between getting home at 5 o'clock to have dinner with the family versus having to stay at 7:30, or, you know, getting to coach the kids' soccer team instead of never seeing your children on the weekends either. It's just like those little things add up so much when it comes time to look back on your life after 20 years, you know, of 30 years of being an attorney, of like, did I enjoy enough moments along the way?
So Jordan, what is the biggest mistake professionals make with their time?
They don't value their time enough. So when you are a business owner, you need to figure out what is your time worth, and then you need to spend the money that your business makes to make more of that time. You know, there are too many attorneys I talk to that charge $400 an hour or more that are doing tasks that can be done by somebody for 10 or 15 bucks an hour, and you are costing yourself hundreds of dollars every hour that you do that.
So is working longer hours usually the solution or the problem?
It's the problem, because it's easy to say yes to more time, but at some point we only have 168 hours in the week and 24 hours in every day. Like we cannot scale ourselves. So if we look at it as I can do more, we don't create systems, we don't create a business, we don't create checklists, we don't train other people. We have to get away from that and into building scalable businesses. No person is scalable, but a system is, a business is, technology is.
Well, you talk a lot about automation. Can you explain what that means in a way that teens would understand?
Sure. The things that you do over and over again that you don't want to do should be automated so that you can have fun and be a human more on the things that can't easily be automated or that you don't do that often.
So basically, if I don't like doing homework, should I just tell ChatGPT to do it, or should I like actually do it?
You know, my wife teaches law school, and this conversation all the time. Like, how do we train these kids to use these law students to use ChatGPT? Because I think there's a point where you knowing how to use that is going to be one of the best skills you can have. At the same time, if you only use that, we're finding that people aren't retaining information. So there's definitely a balance between you need to put in the effort to actually learn things, and also the tool that is ChatGPT, it taking a bunch of things off your plate lets you focus on the things that a human has to do and be better. So it depends.
I see. So do you think teens today have an advantage because they can understand tech so well?
I think teens today have an advantage in that sense, but the disadvantage you have is that your teachers are not as knowledgeable about the technology as you are. And so like my wife and I seriously talk about how can we give prompts to these kids that ChatGPT can't easily answer for the purpose of learning to be an attorney. So you have to create fictitious situations. You have to put together these really good ideas. I wish that your math teacher could find something that isn't a ChatGPT solution in 4 seconds. I don't know what that is. I do not have the answer to that question, but I think that's where you all are going to struggle, is the school system being slower to adapt than you are individually to learn.
So what's one thing schools don't teach that you think that they should?
How to think. That's what law school is all about. It's how to think. The law will change, but the critical thinking skills that I employ as an attorney, as a business coach, as an owner, as a dad, like those are the things that are always necessary. So like I love that you've got the math section, because I think that becomes a really good way for people to critically think in the context of math.
So why would a kid listening today want to grow up and do your job?
My job's fun. I work from home most of the time, and when I'm out of the house, I'm golfing with friends. I'm grabbing lunch with referral sources. I get to really sit down and talk to some of the smartest legal minds across the country and help them through their business. It's great. I love my job. And when I don't, I make decisions to change it. So I tweak, the specific things that I do. More people need that control. It may not be coaching other attorneys. It might be something totally different, but that concept of, am I the best at this and do I enjoy doing this? Do more of that.
Well, let's take another quick break to pay some bills.
The Tiberius Show would like to thank one of their dedicated sponsors, Custom Designs Orlando. These guys are on Mills Avenue and do all sorts of stuff, ranging from photo ID badges, engraved signs, custom braille ADA signs, vinyl lettering to trophies and awards. The cool part about Custom Designs is they can ship products all over the United States. You can reach them at 407-898-0373 and tell them that
Tiberius
sent you.
Over 40 years, Lighthouse Central Florida has provided education, independent life skills, and job training to thousands of Central Floridians who live with blindness or any degree of vision loss. Whether it's picking out clothes in the morning or just moving around your community and serving Orange, Seminole, and Osceola counties, contact Lighthouse Central Florida at 407-898-2483 or visit them online at lighthousecfl.org.
And we're back here with Jordan Ostroff, lawyer, coach, and proof that you don't have to be miserable to be successful. So, what is one skill every teen should start learning right now?
I think critical thinking. I'll go back to that one. It is amazing to me that if you can reason through a problem, whether the solution is a textbook, whether the solution's AI, whether the solution's asking somebody else who knows the answer, just that concept of knowing how to reason through a situation will help you a million times over in life.
Well, would you recommend a legal career to a teenager? Why or why not?
Ooh, that's a great question. So I went to law school straight through. I actually graduated early from UCF before I went to Barry for law school. A lot of my colleagues in school who were the best had another job beforehand that they did quite a bit. So it was really interesting to see people who were contractors and then were in contracts class talking about, subcontractors and contractors suing each other. So I don't hate the idea of somebody, if you have a non-legal job that you're interested in, try it for 3 to 5 years, because even if you then become a lawyer, you're going to know enough about that industry that it's going to help you in a case. It's going to help you get an internship. It's going to help you make a better argument to a jury. So I'm open to it, but I also think people can try other things first and then have that be a benefit.
So what's the biggest lesson your career has taught you?
The biggest lesson, it gets better when you make changes to make it better. I think for the longest time, I thought just being in business, I'll get more cases, I'll make more money. None of that was true. It was the changes that I made along the way. It's the things that I learned. So, and this goes for everything in life. Life gets better when you make the changes to make it better.
All right. So what have you learned about yourself during your career that you wish that you knew earlier?
I have learned, I'm going to say I learned modesty, and that's probably a terrible answer, right? Like, it's tough to say that I did that thing. But really, when I first opened my firm, I wanted to clone myself. And I was like, if I could do everything, this will be amazing. And then one day I realized, but I don't like listening to people be emotional, but I don't like following back up on these things, the 10 million other things. So I found people that love those things. And so I think the best thing for me was figuring out what I was genuinely good at and what I wasn't, and then finding people who are great at the things that I suck at.
So on your off time, what do you like to do for fun?
Oh man, I run 3 times a week. I lift weights 3 times a week. I go out to eat at fancy restaurants. I golf. I mean, like, I have a ton of downtime, or I should say downtime. I have a ton of business development networking time, which is all the fun things that other people do, but I do them with referral sources, and then they become tax deductible. It's amazing.
You should probably go bowling sometime. Maybe that might be fun.
Bowling's great.
I love bowling. So, what was the biggest mistake that you've ever made in life or work, and how did it change you as a person?
So when I do anything, there's going to be 3 outcomes. It's going to go well, I'm going to learn, and I'm going to die. I haven't died yet. So I don't think there are any mistakes because I've learned from those. And that's the biggest issue. I think it's not making one mistake. It's not learning from it. It's making the same mistakes over and over again. Like, that's where people really struggle. To be more direct to your question, I'm terrible about hiring people. So I finally had one of my staff members create a whole system for hiring. And then I do the final interview once somebody has already been through this whole process. That's been really helpful because I'm not hiring people, in 2 seconds without thinking it through, them pre-vetting everybody. But ultimately, I don't think there are mistakes. As long as we learn, we are good to go.
Okay. Now, can you tell me that one story? Remember, this is a kid show. But that one story, that you're not supposed to tell me about. Come on, you can tell me. I won't tell anyone.
I have a couple different answers, but I'll give you the one that's easiest for the show. So I prosecuted this guy who, in Seminole County, he robbed a drugstore for a bunch of oxycodone and other serious drugs. Then his car didn't work, so he walked across the street and carjacked a lady and flat out was like, "Excuse me, ma'am, I hate to do this to you, but the police are on their way. Like, I need your keys. I have a gun." And she did. She was like, nicest carjacker ever. Like, that was her thing. So then I'm in Orange County, right? I'm a prosecutor. So he's driving back on I-4 through downtown Orlando on I-4 downtown. He's popping oxy. He's driving with his knee. He's shooting at police out the window. Like, it was Grand Theft Auto, but real. Like, it really happened, to the extent that all of us were like, we didn't see this on the news? Like, how is this not a huge thing that didn't hit any of the cops, like knocked out some of their cars, didn't kill anybody? It was so insane. And then the cops finally stop him with spike strips. They go to interview him. He's so whacked out on drugs, they have to bring him to the hospital for 48 hours for him to detox enough that he is coherent to answer questions. At which point he tells them I did it. It was me. I did all the stuff. They found him in the car. It's all on video. Like, there was no hesitation to it. But that's by far the most ridiculous case that I prosecuted that I can talk about, because I wasn't his defense attorney. I never spoke to the guy. It's just all of us were, how did we not know about this? Where were we? There's our office is right there.
I feel bad for that, defense attorney.
Listen, the guy had multiple life sentences just in Seminole County on the other 2 things. He wanted to get out of prison and have 4 months, different. So they brought him here for him to do our trial. Even the cops were like, "Why are we here?" And I was like, "Because he won't take a plea. We're just going to have fun, do the hearing, do the case, bring in the tires that were shot out, play everybody's video footage of their friends' cars, spinning out when they get hit." It was nuts.
Wow. Okay. Well, is there anything else you think my listeners should know about you and what you do?
Anything else they should know about me? Look, I put out a lot of free, helpful content. There's only 2 Jordan Ostroffs in the world that I know of. The Hawaiian shirt bearded one is me. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram as Lawyer with a Life. I'm on Facebook. Just see if anything vibes with you. I'm here. I want to genuinely provide as much help as I can to as many people.
Well, what is that one question that you think I forgot to ask you?
The one question, I don't know, man. You do such a great job. I'm telling you, like I do a lot of podcasts. This is awesome, and you have a really interesting take from being younger and trying to get some of these things. A lot of times we use too much jargon, and so you really help me like try to not dumb things down, but simplify some of the lingo.
Well, thank you so much, Jordan, for being my special guest. Can you stick around for Math Corners?
Absolutely.
Aw, Dad, my computer's slow again and I can't play my games.
Call Your Computer Solutions today, and we will scan for viruses and clean that computer up remotely and make it fast again. Our phone number is 407-826-0810.
Thanks, Dad. My computer's fast again. Now I can do my homework. Thanks for calling Your Computer Solutions at 407-826-0810.
Tiberius' favorite subject, it's Math Corners!
And now it's time for Math Corners. Thank you so much, Jordan, for helping me with Math Corners. This week, we're just more multi-step word problems. My dad is always good to find new problems for me to solve. And today, we're going to talk about answering intake phone calls at a law firm. You might be good at this one, okay? Okay.
All right, I'm ready.
So, a law firm receives phone calls from new clients who want help. Each intake call takes about 12 minutes to handle properly. The firm gets an average of 5 intake calls every hour. The intake specialist works an 8-hour day. So, here's the question. How many total minutes does the intake specialist spend on phone calls in one full workday?
Well, so 5 calls at 12 minutes is an hour each one. They're there 8 times. So they're spending 60 minutes an hour times 8 hours is 460? No.
Wait.
Is 480. 480
Yeah,
hours a day.
480. I think it was that one, yeah. Well, you know what? I'll just go ahead and explain everything for the listeners. That way they know how to do it. Okay, now, we know it's important for a law firm to track and plan schedules to ensure that they're able to answer all the intake calls for their firm. No calls, no clients. I'm sure you know that a lot. So, first, we have to figure out how many calls happen in one day. The firm gets 5 calls per hour and works for 8 hours. We can use this equation, 5 times 8, total the number of calls per day, or 40 calls per day is around that. Well, that was easy. Are we done yet? Nope, there's more. Now that we know the total number of calls, we have to find out how many minutes those calls take. Each call takes 12 minutes, and there's 40 calls. So we can use this equation, 40 times 12 equals the total number of minutes spent on intake calls. So 4 times 12 is 48, and you can add the trailing 0 and get 480 minutes. You're right. Now that also means that the intake specialist spends 480 minutes a day just answering new client phone calls. Wait, if you take 480 and divide that by 60 minutes, is exactly 8 hours. That means there's no time for lunch or breaks. Jordan, I think you're going to have to fix this for her.
But it's a better problem to fix that there's too many calls than not enough.
Okay. Well, Jordan, do you think it's important to track intake calls to be handled efficiently?
Yes, there are a million people that have said some sort of the following quote, half of all marketing is wasteful. We just don't know which half. So tracking, where they came from, what's worth it, what cases end up being valuable. I'm telling you, I do math all the time with my clients for this on number of leads into consultations, on average case value times number of cases. Math is great when it's the money. Math is great when it's the profitability for your company that you are helping to figure out.
Well, thank you so much, Jordan, for your help with Math Corners. And now it's time for the Heart of a Lion. As you know, we talk about the qualities of living by the Heart of a Lion, which stands for leadership, integrity, obedience, and nobility. This week, we're going to talk about leadership. For me, I think leadership is the act of loving what is good, having self-control, and being disciplined. The qualities of leadership are providing guidance and direction, organization, and being a positive influence on others. So, the other day, I was working on a group project at school. Everyone had a job to do, but one kid was doing everything. He was stressed, he was snapping at people, and honestly, the project wasn't even getting better. It was just getting louder. Someone finally said, "Why are you doing all of it?" He says, "Because if I don't, it won't get done right." That's when I realized something. Sometimes people think leadership means doing everything yourself. That's not leadership, that's burnout. So I said, what if we slow down for 2 minutes, split the work, and actually help each other? At first, everyone just looked at me, but then we did it. We divided the jobs, everyone had a role, the stress level dropped, and the project actually turned out better. Now, here's the thing. I wasn't trying to take charge. I wasn't trying to take over. I just saw that the way we were doing things wasn't working, and it needed to change because I really wanted this grade. But that's what leadership really is. Leadership is knowing when to push, when to pause. Leadership is understanding that working smarter beats working nonstop. And leadership is showing people that success doesn't mean losing yourself. So remember this. Leadership isn't about doing more. It's about doing what's right. Be calm, be thoughtful, and be brave enough to set boundaries too. And show everyone that you can be lion strong. So, Jordan, do you have an example of leadership that you saw this week?
Sure. Listen, the conversation that I always have with people, clients or their staff, and then my staff, when you fire somebody, that is the biggest opportunity for you to show leadership, because it's a terrible thing that's going to happen to that person that you're going to do, but it's for the benefit of everybody else and also them. It always amazes me how much we let people linger at a company when they're not a good fit, even though they hate it because they know they're not a good fit as well. And so a great leader is going to do a really good job firing that person. Like, they're going to be nice to them. They're going to help them find their next position. They're going to give them helpful feedback, but also, like, they're not going to let this linger. They're going to do it. They're going to do what is hard quickly.
So, Jordan, of all of the Heart of a Lion virtues, which one do you see the most?
I see leadership the most, but that's because I lead 2 companies and I coach other people that lead their companies. So that's an easy one for me. Although I'd like to think for lawyers, we see nobility most.
That's unexpected.
Yeah. Hey, listen, lawyers get a bad rap, but when you find really good attorneys who are helping people through their worst times in a really caring way, because they have systems in place, because they have a business, because they have a good amount of staff, because they're, like you said with leadership, because they're not doing everything, they're doing what they should be doing. It's amazing. You can really turn around people's lives.
Well, we should always try to be lion strong in everything we do, shouldn't we?
Absolutely.
And that's our show, folks. I want to thank the one, the only, the amazing Jordan Ostroff for being on my show. It has been so much fun talking to you today. I think we learned a lot about your legal career and having a better work-life balance.
Thank you so much for having me, man. This has been a blast.
No problem. And do you mind giving your social media and website again?
Absolutely. So there's only 2 Jordan Ostroffs. I am jordanostroff.com. You can find all my website and stuff there. And on Instagram, it's at Lawyer with a Life. So easy to find.
Well, also, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at The Tiberius Show. And I would like to thank WWPR 1490AM, Kansas 98, Soul Radio 24/7, Easy Way TV, and all the other stations that air my show. And please visit The Tiberius Show on YouTube and hit that subscribe button. Hey, Jordan, are you subscribed yet?
I'm pretty sure I am. If not, I've got a bunch of email addresses, so you'll get some extra subscribers too.
All right, sweet. That's actually pretty nice. All right, well, this week, user HRD13Y says, I love libraries. This is a good show. Well, user Hardly, well, thank you so much just for watching. And I'm glad that, you learned something new. And be sure to look at, comment on my videos. And I might even mention yours at the end of my shows. Also, be sure to listen to us next on The Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy.